Okay, so thank you everybody for being here. Very, very high-powered panel, guys. I have no idea how I'm on it, but anyway, thank you so much for being here. And I'm just going to start off. So maybe quickly, if everybody just does a quick round of introduction for 30 seconds, just to talk about yourself, starting with you, Venkatesh, and going down here. It'll just give people the chance to understand what you guys do better.
Good afternoon. My name is Venkatesh Kumar. I work as a Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Stallion, oneByte. And we are into technology solution business, and we provide products and services for the retail industry in India and in Middle East.
I'm Haran, Managing Director for Fluent Commerce. Been in the e-commerce technology side of the world for about 15 years. My last company was SAP, where I spent about 8 years, and before that at IBM. Right now, I manage the Asia Pacific and Japan business.
Hi, I'm Abhishek. I lead Puma's business in India and Southeast Asia.
Hi, my name is C.K. Kumaravel. I run the natural salon chain. When I come to Bombay, I have to introduce, I'm not an ice cream brand. I run a salon chain, and we have 700 salons, and most of it, 650, are in the southern part of India. And when we come to the northern part of India, we also have to say that we don't speak in Hindi, but we are Indians by heart.
Hi, I'm Sanjeev Rao. I'm the CEO of Being Human. We are into the fast fashion clothing segment. Present in India, expanding very shortly to Canada, Southeast Asia, and GCC. Well, it's a brand I'm sure all of you all know about. However, it's now under the Being Human Foundation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sashank from IBM. I lead the IT solutions and services for all our retail, CPG, and logistics and distribution clients globally. So happy to be a part of the panel.
Hi, I'm Sathiyanarayanan. I'm founder CEO of CASA Retail AI. We are an AI-driven consumer data platform. Basically, it helps to drive sales from existing customers. So we do it in a very personalized kind of manner. We are also part of Genesis One. We are one of the portfolio companies.
Hi everyone, my name is Sudakshina Ghosh. I lead SAP's industry and customer advisory practice for the consumer industries, and I have the opportunity to work with consumer OEMs and retailers in India and globally.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. So I think I've just been told that this session is going to get cut short to only 4 o'clock. So you're going to have a slightly rapid fire session. So Lakshman, I want to start with you. Talk about customer loyalty. Does it really exist, or do we just make too much about it? And if it does exist, and our customers have a portfolio of brands, or only are they loyal to one brand?
Sure. Thanks, Rajat, for that question. And we were having very interesting discussion, and you'll hear, different perspectives on does consumer loyalty or customer loyalty exist. Based on my experience from working with, both consumer companies and retailers, it does seem that engaging customers, and you were also referring to that in your presentation as well, Rajat, that how do we engage customers now that, on her time, on the channel that she wants to be engaged in a personalized manner. That definitely is something that leads to revenue uplift, and it does lead to a higher customer lifetime value, which drives better unit economics. So that does exist. So the need to ensure that customers are remaining engaged, whether you term that as loyalty, or you term that as a comprehensive end-to-end experience-driven engagement with customers, that definitely is there. The foundational element of this is just being able to create a customer data profile, right? When there is both structured data coming in, unstructured data coming in, how do you build that profile of your customer across different demographics, across maybe different behavioral patterns, right? And how do you keep on building that to be able to drive insights from it? That's the first thing that we are seeing customers and companies do. The second is, of course, we are entering this era of smart apps. And the biggest player who have really changed the game around this is Tata Neu. But of course, this entire idea of having a super app for engaging customers across a portfolio of brands and businesses. So this is built on the customer data profile, the unified customer data profile, but how do I ensure that I'm getting synergies, I'm cross-leveraging insights from one business into another, and I'm also giving my end customers an avenue to remain engaged with me constantly. That is another big pillar that is driving the way customers are looking at redefining loyalty. And the final element is, of course, when you are able to deliver on this promise of what your brand stands for. So essentially great service-related success stories. That, again, builds into this entire cycle, right? So if you have delivered a great service experience for your customers and are able to tell that story, that, again, becomes another big driver of customer loyalty. So service as the ultimate way or channel of living up to the promise of the brand. So these three are essentially what we are seeing in terms of driving the best practices of customer loyalty the way it is emerging today.
Thanks. And some good points. So clearly a yes. Coming to Sanjeev, your thoughts on that and sort of your views.
Well, this is working, yeah. So as we were discussing, see, for us, we are a Gen Z millennial brand. For us, our TG ends at 30, 32 at the most, I mean, until somebody loves the brand so much that even a 50-year-old kind of comes and buys what we sell. Maybe for Salman, yeah, but not from a brand perspective. So for us, it's very, what we have realized is that there's, we shouldn't, I mean, there's nothing called loyalty, technically. So those days are gone. In my 2.5 decades in retail, we have seen the earns and burns happening. And, today with technology coming in, with COVID, making sure you're in the house and getting used to all those technologies, it's now fast forwarded the consumer to a state of mind where basically, they are exactly as she said, is they are just talking about engagement. So for example, I'll give you a very small example with a panelist here. Now Abhishek is here. I love the shoes that he sells. Now somewhere, I'm sure you have engaged with certain apps and certain technologies where I keep getting messages of the kind of shoes that I love of Puma. That the same thing is exactly what I'm trying to put through, that today engaging the consumer is extremely important, because with the D2C brands coming in, with so much of stuff happening on retail, with multiple thousands of brands which are coming in, quality has become hygiene, price has become very important, and fast fashion, price and fast fashion has to kind of go together. So therefore, engaging consumer is one. Two is loyalty. I'll give you a small example. We are probably the only fashion brand in India to have taken this bold step, and I call it bold because it's India, of launching something called Blur. Now, Blur is a gender-neutral clothing. Okay? Now, when you do gender-neutral clothing, I don't know if somebody has the data, but there are about 72 lakh registered LGBTQ population registered. Forget about the unregistered in tier 2, tier 3, tier 1. They don't even come forward. Now, we have created a line for them. It's gender neutral. I mean, even a normal male can wear it, a female can wear it, or the LGBTQ community can wear it. It's perfectly there. Now, we get a huge response coming from them. And we get a huge response. And this all started with, engaging with the consumer, understanding that when a lady walks into our store and tries to pick up a t-shirt which she loves, or a crew neck t-shirt which she loves, we said, hey, she's picking up a men's t-shirt, let's look at that. And then slowly as we started engaging, we understood that that lady actually walked into the store, was picking up a male t-shirt because she belonged to the LGBTQ community. And that gave rise to something. Now, this is engaging. This is engaging with a community. This is engaging with, our other customers and regular customers who are whether in Canada or whether in India. They all want to be told what they want to know, or what they still feel they're connected to. And that's exactly where loyalty lies. I mean, trust me, I've seen consumers. We were doing a survey where, they have opened up their entire shopping cart. They have 5 shopping carts in 5 different websites, and they're selecting and putting everything into the cart. And then I say, hey, what happened to my cart? Because They just jumped over and saw something nice, so there's no loyalty as such. It's as long as you can keep your consumer engaged, that's about it. And since we handle Gen Z, trust me, there's no patience and there's no loyalty.
Good points, good points. And so basically loyalty is very fleeting. As long as you're engaging with them, you are there. So Abhishek, I'll come to you on the same point. You running one of the large brands here and I think hopefully have a large loyal customer base. So talk a bit about that.
Thanks, Rajat. Well, I think both of them covered engagement is key. Creating convenience is key for your customers, that you need to serve your customer in the most convenient manner today. You cannot today win customer basis just giving points, because that's just a pricing technique, right? And these are, of course, engagement is key. But I think if we take a step back, Rajat, the most important thing for building loyalty today in this Gen Z era is, what does your brand stand for? And it stands for that. It starts with that, right? What does your brand stand for? And when the customers think about the brand, what emotions does the brand stir in the mind? And it might be sometimes with very gray, but at the end of it, what purpose, what ethos does the brand has? When you think of the brand and you said, oh, this stands for this, like that's from where loyalty starts, because irrespective of which part of the customer funnel a customer is in, it's about whether the brand has a purpose, whether the brand stands for aspiration, desirability, convenience, experience. You need to have a take which appeals to your consumer, and then you can start engaging and messaging on that basis, right? You can be sharp on your messaging, you can start engaging, but if the basis starts with purpose or the ethos of the brand, for which the why in your slide is, I think, the most important thing. Why should a customer? Because of course convenience is important, pricing is important, a lot of these things are important, engaging, personalized communication is important. But what defies logic is some of the brands, people queue up when there is a drop of a product. And why do they do that? Why do they do that when it is not convenient to stand in a queue early morning and before the store is opened? So I think creating that iconic status of a brand, it is not an immediate solve, but I think that's the most important, even for a fast fashion brand or even for a brand which is like a direct-to-consumer new brand, right? I think one needs to start by thinking, what promise do I deliver as a brand before I get into even product that I solve for, the price that I sell at, the distribution convenience or the experience that I give. I think, what does my brand stand for? And as long as that is solved, I think loyalty comes, and that's how you increase lifetime value and you get efficient marketing spends and everything else. Organic searches happen, organic sales happen.
Thanks. And great points. One is obviously clearly engagement, then obviously creating what we call, what does the brand stand for, the ethos or the whole purpose. So Venkatesh, I'll come to you, just from your perspective, technology perspective, just give your view on that.
Yeah. So as I introduced myself, when I introduced myself, I said that we are in the business of providing technology solutions. That is, we provide product and services right from manufacturing to the point of sale in the entire value chain of retail. Okay, so in our case, from our perspective, I can say that to a great extent, customer loyalty exists. Why it exists? It is because there is a lot of process which goes before the customer decides on implementing a solution. For example, if somebody wants to implement a warehouse management solution, there is a system study which goes on to understand the pain points of the customers, to arrive at a solution which can eliminate those pain points, and there is a POC to be done, and after that there is a installation, implementation, and post-implementation there is after-sales support, turnaround time, right? There are many things which becomes part of the offerings what we make. So that is the reason in our kind of business, unless and until you're bad in whatever I said now, the loyalty of customer to a significant level is still existing.
Good, and it's a good point. I think technology companies, because of the longer hook, the larger investment, customer is definitely, you have to think it's a very, very heavy planned purchase. And in many of the categories we're looking at, it's not a planned purchase, and then you think, I don't need to be that loyal. So some interesting points. Sashank, I'm going to come to you and just talk a bit about, from your perspective, how do you see, loyalty and some of the, is there anything known as loyalty, and what is your view on that?
I mean, in my view, I think every retailer wants loyalty. Who doesn't want loyalty? I think what we are seeing in the market is whether you do it in a very knowingly conscious, formal fashion, or you're probably doing it more in terms of looking at data analytics at the back end, right? But at the end of it, I think all retailers or any of the brands want repeat customers to keep coming back. Now, how they organize loyalty probably differs and is a differing answer by it. And depending on the segment you're in. If you're in a mass market segment, you just want to get price, convenience, and value right. If you're probably in the segment of micro segments, wherein you're looking at targeted population, etc., you're probably creating a semi-formal kind of loyalty engagement. And if you're at the super specialty or the luxury segment, you're probably going to the segment of one, where you want to drive a high level of personalization loyalty. So I guess the answer always differs, but I think loyalty is here to stay. But I think it's the manner and method in which you conduct it within your enterprise. I think that differs. I think the third unique thing that we're probably seeing coming up in the market is, I think we've always seen loyalty as a transaction with the enterprise. I think you're very clearly seeing in the ecosystem today, it's a transaction with the lifestyle ecosystem of the customer. So if you want to really beat the likes of the super app, I think the ecosystem partnerships become a lot more, necessity in the ecosystem today. And with the power of technology, I think you can open up the lifestyle consumer. So one of the good aspects that we have seen is some of the outdoor retailers, they have suffered during the pandemic, but they're creating an ecosystem of survival. So they're doing it with apparel, they're doing it with mountaineering clubs, they're doing it with gyms. So they're capturing the ecosystem of the lifestyle of the consumer, and they drive loyalty across that ecosystem. So it's difficult to invest and reap it as an enterprise of one, but I guess when you get your ecosystem together, I think it probably opens up a new model for you.
No, that's a great point. And I think the ecosystem is a great point, because one of the surest way to have loyalty today is peer-to-peer support. And you don't have peer-to-peer support, then the loyalty becomes hard. Today, I see kids, when they go into a store, they've got 4 other friends who are on Insta at the time, or who are on their chat, they're comparing notes. So the community is very, very important. And I know that brands like Puma and Adidas and Nike do a great job of building community, or practitioners who are running together or playing sports together. And I think that sort of really reinforces the brand in a very subtle way. It also sort of talks about what the brand stands for. Satya, I'll come to you in terms of, do Indian companies really pay attention to customer loyalty? Because I hear this word, but I always say that we talk about AI, but BI is missing, right? Basic information is missing. We're talking about metaverse, but let's solve the basic stuff. So where do you stand on that, and what is your view on that?
Sure. So I would like to answer this in 2 parts. The first is just from our own data alone. So as I said, we have an AI-driven CDP. And from our own data alone, it clearly shows that about 70% of customers are single-time customers.
Second time?
Are one-time customers. 70% of customers. So what this leads is, all the spend in social media marketing that we have done and giving deep discounts have driven a lot of one-time customers. But there has been 18% of drop-offs of your repeat customers, and 12% are still repeating. So basically what we are doing is throwing money away, acquiring customers, but not treating them sufficiently well. So that is the preface to my second part, essentially, right? So this basically leads to us needing to put a lot more focus on how we can retain customers, how we can engage with customers in a much better manner, and get them back to our stores or e-commerce sites. The second part is, loyalty is often used as a single word, right? And it's not a single word as such. We heard Sanjeev talk about it. We heard Abhishek, right, talk about it, and so on, right? So the idea is, you're talking about products, you're talking about identifying clusters of customers that you're trying to bring back either to the store or to online. And a lot of your positioning, a lot of what you stand for, all goes towards building that part of registering in a customer's mind subconsciously. So that is one part of the puzzle. What we can do from a tech standpoint is to identify those clusters, identify those parts of behavior of customers, which will enable a brand to take that discussion forward. The second part is building those tech tools and making it available so that it can start engaging with customers automatically. You find a cohort. you find a particular cohort of customer. And let's say the marketer wants to say, for this cohort of customers, neutral wear is something that needs to be published. So we can start engaging with customers saying that here is a neutral wear line that we are creating just for you. Here is how my sizes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on, right? So you start engaging with customers in a manner that shows that empathy towards that particular group or that cohort and trying to get a better mind share of that customer. I think that's where tech can evolve, and it's at a point where AI is not as expensive. Even earlier, groups like Gap and so on, whom I have worked with earlier, they used to do this. But tech was very expensive. Only the really large retailers could do it. But now it's at a price point where you could actually do proper AI and analytics at a price point which is affordable to most common retailers, right? So 8-store retailers, 10-store retailers, they can take advantage of this, tech and the price point at which it operates. So that's my view on it.
Some good points here, and I think technology is an enabler. I think this discussion is so interesting. I mean, we can spend hours on it in terms of whether it is. So I'm going to come to you, CKK, in terms of where do you see? I mean, you're running a salon brand, hopefully very loyal customers coming back to you again and again. And what sort of do you think they are loyal because of service, price, familiarity? I mean, or do you think they are loyal and they just come because So just talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think the age has come where the customer loyalty time is over. The brands has to be loyal to the customer. The customer will decide where I want the service, when I want the service, how much I am willing to pay, what service, and who should do my service. All the things the customer will be deciding, and the brands has to go and fulfill that. The day of customer being loyal to the brand is over. I think we need to redefine ourselves. Alvin Toffler puts it so beautifully. He says the illiterates of the 21st century are not the ones who cannot read and write. The illiterates of the 21st century are the ones who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. I think we have come to a stage where we have to learn a lot of new things, unlearn a lot of many things we need to unlearn. Especially Corona has come and taught us a lot of things. What we are doing is absolutely unnecessary. And we have come to that stage. And what is the new thing what we are going to relearn? The marketers and the product makers are now trying to come thinking of how to provide some, solving some problems, very interesting way to solve the problem. First question to ask is the problem really existing? I think because the problem in many ways has changed. And this Prakash Iyer in one wonderful article, he used to talk about a bridge in America where they have built it with a lot of fanfare and lot of this water was coming and it was flooding that entire place. They hired the Japanese engineers to come with a brilliant bridge, and people used to marvel at the bridge. Only thing, as luck could have it, the next year there was a heavy rain, and end of the rain, the bridge was moving to one side and the river was moving on the other side. I think that's exactly the scenario now. I think in a lot of ways, the life has changed fundamentally. The marketers and the product makers have to go to the drawing board and first define the problem and then go and solve the problem.
Great points. Very interesting perspective and fantastic thoughts. I'm going to come to you. Venkatesh, let me come to Haran first. He hasn't had a chance to speak in terms of just your thoughts on do Indian customers really, do Indian companies really even understand loyalty, or is it just lip service? And we just say we tick the box, we fill the the NPS score, and somebody goes and does it, some score gets filled out, so we've ticked the box, NPS is very high, therefore customer is loyal. Do we even analyze that, sir?
Yeah, look, first of all, it's a great challenge to actually speak, to be the last person to be speaking on a topic after all the panelists have given such really good points. I just want to give a slightly different perspective because that's something which probably is not been touched. And Abhishek spoke about some of the brands just getting this massive loyalty, not necessarily.
Just maybe move the other mic away.
Right. Okay. Not necessarily, sure in terms of why this brand actually, why people queue up for the brand, so on and so forth. But one key point that we probably looked at is, and you spoke about this in your presentation really well. If you spend a lot of money, time and effort in getting the customer inspired, and you also got them to actually engage, what we've actually seen is the fulfillment, the promise to actually deliver, sometimes is not where it should be. There is a promise to deliver that is probably done at the end of my transaction as a customer, but more often than not, either I get a wrong product, I get the wrong size, wrong color, or it says 24 hours, I get it in 4 days. So I think, and that's a huge loss, because retailers spend millions of dollars in engagement. I think we spoke about customer data platform. We spoke about engagement. But one critical thing is, if you have spent billions of dollars in engaging and getting the customer to actually buy your product, but fail in your delivery, that also impacts hugely, because that's the last time I'm going to come, irrespective of what my engagement experience has been so far online, right? So we fundamentally believe, I think technology has, I would say all this while probably not delivered what it should deliver. Your single view of inventory, I mean, I'm embarrassed to actually even speak about it, because we've been speaking about single view of inventory for years now.
Single view of customer as well.
Exactly, and very few products and technologies have actually delivered single view of inventory. And it's easier said than that, otherwise people would have done by now. So I think the fulfillment of a promise made is key in a relationship, because that builds trust. And unless I have a trust, I think more loyalty is not going to be there with the brand. So I guess that's another perspective.
Fantastic point. And I think, like, I read this definition of a brand. What is a brand? A brand is a promise. Successful brand is a promise fulfilled. So it really gets down to that, right? Have you touched all the boxes? Have you spent a lot of money in advertising, but the person goes into the store, totally gets lost, can't find it, lousy service, buys the product, doesn't like it, there's no way to return it. So the whole journey needs to be mapped out. It's not just for technology. Satya, I'll come to you for that, in terms of where do you see that in terms of... Yeah, sorry, Venkatesh, come to you.
Yeah, as I said, in our industry, the customer loyalty still exists. And the reason why it exists is because one is, what the customer looks at from us is whether we are fulfilling the requirements and we are addressing the pain points for them. And if we are doing that, good. Second thing, what we normally do to retain customers with us is we always keep them informed about latest things, what is coming from us as far as upgradation is concerned in the product or in the service or in the solution, right? And the third thing what we work on is how can we keep on improving on the TAT, service TAT, turnaround time, which ultimately helps the retailer to increase the what you call uptime of the solution. So that brings a lot of value to them, because ultimately, when a retailer is making a commitment to their customer that you're going to deliver a product in 24 hours time, and if the technology which is used behind that doesn't support them to do that, so that entire promise of the brand, the retailer goes, and behind the trust on us will go, and that is when we may lose the customer. Otherwise, if we take care of all these things, the customer most likely to remain with us.
Fair points. And I think for technology companies, like I said, it's a different paradigm from a shopper's, from your customer's point of view. But you have to still do all those things to make it work, right? Otherwise, you will not get the repeat. Abhishek, I'll come to you, and probably the last question we'll be asking everybody, and depending on time. But just what is in your view, best-in-class loyalty program? I know Puma runs a good one. So if you just ignore yours for the time being, just talk about what creates a wow. You talked about people lining up in front of, I'm assuming it's an Apple store you're talking about, but for where people wait for store products to drop. Just, talk about best-in-class loyalty and what drives that. And I'll come to all of you for that, because I think that's a critical one to do that.
Running an organization which is operating a consumer brand, growing it profitably, is running brand loyalty for me. Because there is no way else. Because today you have a customer acquisition cost, you have to increase lifetime. If you look at all our financial metrics that we as business leaders operate in, what are we at the end doing? We have to acquire customer organically who searches for you, you don't pay for it. Or when you pay for it, you have to ensure that they stay. And that's the only way you build successful businesses, profitable businesses. So for us, for any business, actually, we are only working for increasing customer loyalty, right? And there are various ways I can get on with it, but I think it's the organization's philosophy, in my opinion, which you have to have the penchant and the drive to obsessed with retaining customers. Customers have to come back. Customers have to transact with you more, and customers have to keep coming back to you organically, right? I mean, you don't always keep paying for it. To his point, you can spend the money, and if 70-80% of the people never come back to you, you're not going to, you'll be running out of business at some stage, right? So I think that orientation towards loyalty, and the rest of it is I think, very, very, very commonsensically understood that you need to have the promise has to be delivered, you need to build on experience, you need to build intrigue, you need to do promotions where the customer is involved. We just did a Women's Day program where in every store women could walk in. We did a professional shoot, which young women really liked. We created the portfolio. They went online into their social media, went into online to our social media, and we actually used it, select ones, to get into our catalog on e-commerce. And that was customer engagement at probably a very high level. So I think these ideas do come in. At the end of it is about building an organization where you say, how do I just get the customer, deliver the customer's promise, and have the entire organization oriented towards that?
Great points. I mean, you have to really live this mantra, right? CK, I'll come to you. Just talk a bit about your perspective. How do you reimagine that, just quickly, in terms of customer loyalty?
In our business, more than the brand loyalty, the people are loyal to the stylist.
Absolutely.
There used to be people who will go behind the stylist, and if the stylist moves from one salon to another, people used to follow the stylist more than the brand. But thanks to Corona, those days are over. People are now coming to the brand more than the stylist. I think one of my objective for the industry is the business should become people agnostic and brand agnostic. Brand means the product what we are using. They should come for what is the kind of service what they are experiencing in the salon, and that is the priority, and that is what we are focusing on at this point. Corona, it has become what was SOP before, which is the standard operation procedure. We have converted to operation standard protocols. We hired a doctor to tell us what are all the precautions we need to take. Presuming the customer and the service provider, we call them as the smile provider, because the job is to put smile in the customer's face. Presuming both of them to be the asymptomatic patients, how one will not transmit to the other? That is the kind of precautions we have taken, and that is what we have spread to that industry. And the safety first, customer first, and digital first is what we are following at this point of time.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great to hear that. Sanjeev, to you, and then Sudarshan, I'll come to you.
So I think, Abhishek had spoken about, purpose of the business is very important for getting, somewhere that base has to get set for even consumers to have or recall your brand, as a brand. So talking about us, I think, we are so we have the conscious circle of being human. And of course, there is the business circle of being human. In the conscious circle of being human, we're talking about a lot of activities which we do, and whether it's sustainability, whether it is getting into right sourcing and a whole lot of stuff. So somewhere there is a purpose. Once the purpose is set, that of course draws the consumer to you. But whatever I think we discussed, I mean, that's hygiene factor. That's completely hygiene. That has to be there. And post that comes the engagement. And when the engagement comes, I completely believe that today consumers, whatever loyalty that we are talking about here through engagement, is only when you're talking to the consumer, the language that the consumer is actually wanting to hear. So I might want to say that, I sell khadi, but khadi is not what they want to hear. They want to hear a cotton lycra mix. So what are you talking? So, it's very important. And after setting your purpose, setting what you are meant for as a brand, all of that, your brand personality, what do you stand for? How are you contributing to Mother Earth and all of that? Yeah, so I think that's, most of it I already spoke about. So all these have to be constant. And trust me, 20 years back loyalty and today's loyalty is very
Very.
different. Very, very different. Yeah.
Thanks. So, Lakshmi, I'm going to come to you quickly, and then if there's a time, both to Satya and
So, I mean, I just wanted to say what an engaging discussion it's been. To me, what differentiates, and generates loyalty is when brands also keep the customer experience at the center, but also to Abhishek's point that what is it that they stand for.
So name a brand you're loyal to, very loyal. And why are you loyal?
Where I was actually thinking, when you said that I really like the Starbucks experience. In the sense that, right from the way they source the coffee beans from rural farmers, they ensure that's ethically sourced. Even in India, I have actually visited some of their estates from where they source their teas from. What are some of the working practices there? And also seen what are the working practices in some of the other plantations around. So it comes from a deep place of belief and trust in the brand, and they are actually living up to the promise of quality right across the value chain. And they are also employee focused as well, because employees are going to deliver the service promise, right? So yeah, I mean, those things, if you do as an organization, automatically your brand it stands for integrity, it stands for the right culture, I believe, which is also going to lead to your consumers being inspired about the relationship that they have with you.
Thanks. Last word, Sashank.
Yeah, I would say basically loyalty has been very good where the brands are not confused about what they stand for, and they have been consistent about it for a very long time. And we have seen the likes of big box retailers, mass retailers, who say it's price that reflects my brand, and have stayed with it for years and decades, right? And you don't mind the long queues, you don't mind the inconvenience, because the customer knows what he's going to get out of it. And then there are brands which drive experience. They're not confused about it.
But
and
isn't
you pay
the
a premium for it.
shopper expectation also changing? So then how can you be consistent if their expectation is changing?
Yeah, I think what they have stayed is in terms of saying their brand value is about driving one particular message into the community. And they are targeting mostly like a horizontal driven segment, right? They're not force-fitting by segment. And I think very clear about the brand and what they promise for.
Satya, last word from you, quickly. Done?
So I'd just like to talk about a case study. Those that are from Chennai would relate to it a lot better, I guess.
Quickly though.
If people, quickly I'll do it. So, a minute. So I don't know how many of you are from Chennai. Can you just put your hands up? Okay, good number. So do you guys remember how movie-going experience was before Satyam?
1 second.
Satyam Cinemas. Now it's PVR. PVR bought them. But it just used to be going to a theater. There's some dinky popcorn during the break. You just go to the loo, come back and watch the movie. For the most part, that's how it was. And once Satyam actually came and they wanted to define what a movie-going experience was, that created brand loyalty. To your question, even today, PVR, after acquiring Satyam, they actually adopted Satyam practices throughout. I can't imagine going to any other theater other than to a Satyam. So in terms of brand loyalty, that created brand loyalty just because of the experience they were able to provide and how personalized it was. Even the popcorn that you make, the toppings that you put on it, you personalize for your own taste. So the amount of effort that the brand took to ensuring that when movie going, the first thing that resonates to the customer's mind was Satyam. That was something that was great to see, observe, and learn as well, being a student of retail. So, this is some of the thoughts that I would like to leave behind with retailers. Definitely think about what your brand stands for, what you want to communicate, and how effectively you can communicate to your various customer segments, personas, however you want to call it.
Thank you. Sorry to rush you guys. This is actually a fantastic discussion, and I don't think I've been with so many retailers at one shot, but we have another pressing connection. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.